There we go. Okay, so want to just get started with greeting and purpose for the meeting. This is our opportunity to meet with just the middle school and elementary school band teachers. A lot of OBDA meetings are directed towards high school, as a lot of us have figured out at this point. So this is our chance to kind of talk about what's going on in our realm of the state and kind of talk about maybe some issues that we've got going on or just comments about what's going on in the middle school world. So a few quick announcements before we get into discussions. There is room on the literature committee. If you're interested in being a part of the literature committee, there is a link to the, oh, I'm sorry, I've got to keep an eye on the chat too. Oh, you're good, Nathan. I know you had a busy weekend. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. It's recorded if you want to catch the meeting later too. So anyways, the literature committee interest survey is posted. And I'll show you guys what that looks like. Complete this form if you're interested in joining. Responsibilities include discuss, analyze all aspects of OBDA relating to instrumental literature, collaborate with committee chairs, and maintain open communication with the OBDA leadership, prepare committee reports for OBDA meetings. The position was already filled, so now it's just joining the committee if you're interested. I believe it was filled by Lewis, I think. So Noreen's got some info on that probably. But if you're interested in being a part of that, go ahead and fill out that interest form. Questions in the chat are welcome. Please submit any job postings that you know about in your district as they start popping up. A lot of retirements are coming. A lot of people are getting new positions. So if you know about things, you can post about those on the OBDA website. I also sent out a link in the original email that I sent out. That reminds me, I have an elementary school position open in my district that I need to post. So please get those posted, especially if you know college kids, post those, pass those along. That would be really helpful to get things moving. Eben is always happy to help post all that on the website as well. Awesome, people are still popping in, wonderful. The OBDA website is current on the leadership and it should show you who to go to if you have any questions. We've got a lot of new regional representative that was just elected in the fall, and these grade level positions are brand new. So if you have any questions, you can direct them towards myself or Noreen or anyone that is representative of your region if you want to get anything to the OBDA board. Okay, so one more, reading a workshop is back. I'm excited to attend that this summer. I think I have it popped up already. The OBDA reading workshop will be hosted August 1st through 5th this summer. There's a breakdown of what is happening. It's hosted at Oregon State University. Looks like Sunday or Monday will be jazz literature, Tuesday will be concert band literature, Wednesday as well, and Thursday as well, with some adjudication training on Friday. So if you're interested in attending that, that is all posted on the website as well. Any questions so far? Okay, made my way through the announcements. I feel like everyone's probably keeping tabs on those, so you're all doing well. And Eben is a great communicator, so he's been posted frequently, which is helpful for all of us. I sent out a Google form about a week ago before I was in California, asking these questions from the board. How are things going for your program? How can OBDA support you in your program? How is the OBDA leadership doing? And what resources would be helpful to create? I'm gonna just throw out some that I heard from the feedback, but you are welcome to share some as if you would like as well. So how are things going for your program? It looks like a lot of people are kind of on the same page. A lot of people are rebuilding. So I saw a lot of people say that they are rebuilding their programs. Numbers are small in many programs in many districts, which but it sounds like a lot of people are actually having a really great year, which I know that's not applying for everyone, but I was happy to see that feedback from a lot of people. I think numbers was the biggest issue for a lot of people. But no one really had too many concerns about at least their program and how things are going. So if you want to speak up, I'd love to hear about how everyone's programs are doing, if anyone wants to share. Yeah, okay. I see people's faces responding.
Yeah, I was about to type this in the chat, but I noticed something interesting with my band. I was wondering
Go for it.
if anyone else had am I? Can you hear me right now?
Yeah,
Okay,
you're
good.
good.
I noticed that obviously numbers are low, but the kids that I have can play. Like they learn how to like they actually the ones who actually did what they're supposed to do learned how to learn on their own and how to take an instruction once and do it. And it's the best band I've ever had. Noelle at high school is the same thing. It's the best wind ensemble she's ever had. And we're like, this was supposed to be a huge rebuilding year. We're like in shock. It's so cool. Next year is going to be a different story, but for me at least, for her she's set. But has anyone else noticed that same thing with them?
Someone or Travis. Uh, for me, it's either they're really, really good, like killing it, or I don't know what they did for the last year. Like it's like a light switch. It's like the kids that were with me every single day are just absolutely crushing it. And then I think there's some kids that just signed on so they could chat and have some sort of social thing, but they didn't really play much. So it was like an either or, either really, really good or really not so good.
And I would say, Travis, that's totally true for my 8th graders, the kids that hung in with me last year. Unfortunately, Brandon, pretty much the only ones that could play stuck. The rest of them found their way out. My 7th grade band is a whole other story, though. So I would not say that's true for my 7th graders.
It's funny because I have 14 kids in an advanced band, but it's like one on a part. It's like the 14 that you would want, and so I'm busy. I'm rewriting everything, but it works, and it's just cool. It's the coolest thing ever. Like I said, 7th grade is a whole different story though. In 6th grade, 6th grade is where it should be. So, but yeah, it's kind of cool.
Um, oh, wait, am I? Yes. Okay. I maybe don't have like the ones who can play, but I do have in my 8th grade band the ones who are like uber dedicated. This is the first year that all but 2 of my kids have signed up for high school band. All but 2 of them. So that's pretty exciting.
That's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, so I'm stoked for that.
Congrats. That's awesome. Cynthia, I see you put a little hand situation. I know you're driving. Do you want to? Oh, you're muted. If you want to. There you are.
Had to find the unmute button. I concur with most people that the kids who hang in there are crushing it. I had a pretty good number of kids come back, so numbers at Beaumont are okay this year. But as was mentioned, next year is going to be a completely different story. We'll see how that goes. I think having the parade, we're getting ready for Junior Rose Parade, and so that's been a lot of motivation for some kids. And then we're doing some in-house festivals that they really like. But it's definitely a case of the kids who did what you asked them to during Zoom can play. Actually, they're hungry. They want literature, and so I picked stuff for festival that might be too hard for them. Well, not for them. I picked stuff that's going to be too hard for the kids that are barely hanging on. But the kids who really want it, I felt like I owed it to them to make sure that their literature experience was at least some exposure to some of the things, so that their whole 8th grade year didn't turn into playing 7th grade band music and being bored to death. So I'm going to take a chance on incurring the wrath of judges because we don't play Shenandoah like North Texas does. But those 3 flute players who have practiced that solo so much are going to be so thrilled to get to do that at George Fox that it's worth it to me if the tuba player forgets to play A flat, you know?
Well, that's awesome. It really sounds like a lot of people are kind of in similar situations where they've got some awesome kids in their program. So I'm really, really happy to hear that. I feel similarly as well. So I'm really glad that things are going well for most programs. Feel free to keep typing in the chat if you want to contribute. I just want to get the meeting moving along so that way we can all have our afternoons. How can OBDA support you in your program? Some of the things that I saw in the feedback form that you guys filled out was providing more resources, like especially for new teachers. contributing more to the middle school literature list. Those are all listed on the OBDA website. I think I pulled them up. If you go to resources at the top, concert band. A lot of you probably already know this. And you scroll down, there's the current middle school recommended literature list. A lot is already posted on that. There's a form you can fill out if you want to add things to it. I know I've discovered a ton of new music. I love Carol Burton Chambers. She's awesome. I'm going to add some of her stuff as well on there. So
can I get to jump in? Just
please go for
really
it.
quickly? Hi, I'm Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Reformed middle school band, not reformed, missing my middle school kid band director. Happy to be with all of you. So the middle school recommended literature list, it is recommended, is a work in progress. It is a live document. You can update and add a piece at any time. We're also collecting information if the composers are from an underrepresented population, so we can highlight those. Also data on if it's on smart music, easy to find. A thing I really want to stress about this is that it's not just festival literature. I want this to be a resource for when it's May and your seventh graders are seventh graders and you need something fun for them to play, but it's not, I don't want it to be terrible. I want it to teach good things. So this should run the gamut of, yeah, it could be appropriate for festival, but like, where are the best grade 0.5 pieces that are not super boring and get kids engaged right off the bat? So if you have any music that your kids love that also teaches great things, you can add it to the list. And if there are new things, like I try to link recordings from JW Pepper if they're there, please, please, please add lists. I want this to be huge and extensive and easily sortable to help you find what you need.
That's awesome. Thank you. You'll see the link up here in the upper left-hand corner of the form. That was another request for OBDA, was to provide more LGBTQ plus literature. And that's something that's a category in here as well. So please utilize this, please add to it, especially as you're discovering new pieces. We've got a lot of good stuff out there. Awesome.
One more just to hop in with that. I know I'm not on the committee right now. I was the original committee on this. I was actually with it 10 years ago or whatever, just put this together. And there has always been some confusion among some directors who just wow, that sounded very dickish how I said some directors. There's been some confusion among some directors who misunderstood what it was. It's not like the high school list where, you know, it's in order to qualify you need to play off this list. I've heard so many people who misunderstood it complaining, saying, well, who are they to tell me what I have to play? No, you don't have to. It's not a required, recommended. In order to be a good teacher, you need to play off this list. It's a resource of what we think is quality literature, like what more experienced teachers are. You know what I'm saying, right? Yes.
It's almost like it needs the subtitle of tried and true or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Things that,
and no matter how many times we say it, I still hear, you know, younger directors who don't understand, or even older directors who aren't paying attention, complaining about it and like being all, you know, weird about it. We're like, no, that's not what it is. It's, you know, be cool, man.
Yeah, I appreciate the term recommended on there. And I've used the resource many, many times, especially when I'm trying to think of something new, because rather than playing the Tempest 50 times, which I love, but it's a great resource. Please add to it as you find some awesome pieces. Barf, yes. Okay, let's see. Another thing that was recommended for the OBDA leadership to provide is, I think I mentioned this already, providing content for new directors, like a lot of resources, especially sub plan suggestions or rhythm resources that people use, or what are recommended method books that people use. So maybe compiling some sort of a database of, you know, recommendation and support for new directors and old directors as well. Everyone can always be learning new stuff. So we will be compiling some stuff like that. Okay, and then you are welcome to answer any of these questions in the chat if you would like to contribute. How are things going for your program? How can OBDA support you and your program? How is the leadership doing? And what are some resources that would be helpful? Please contribute in the chat. Is it possible to remove tunes from the list? I don't know who created that document. Is that? Okay, awesome.
Yeah, it's me. I think it's open. If not, I'll make it open for comment because I think that could be really cool too. If people want to chime in and be like, don't use this person. Again, like a lot of people recommended a lot of Larry Clark things, and I have very mixed feelings about Larry Clark, but that's a question that I would like to let people make their own decisions about. And even though through education, in my opinion, maybe we should put Larry Clark on the back burner until he becomes a little bit more culturally responsive and respectful of all people. Anyway, that's another soapbox issue for another day. So I'll make sure that it's comments. And if you want something removed, then yes. Long answer to a short question.
Yeah,
Appreciate
that's exactly who I was thinking of too.
Interesting. We all have the same person in mind. Thank you, Laura. That's really helpful. Okay. Yes. Like I said, keep adding stuff into the chat if you have ideas or comments. I saw Kaylee's. Absolutely. We'll get stuff posted. I'll work with Eben to get some Google Forms going so that way we can all contribute to it because that would be very helpful. Let's compile our resources. Okay, let's move on. If you guys don't mind, discussion questions, things that we can all talk about together and that we could possibly bring to the board. I would like to start with Laura Arthur, if you don't mind talking a little bit about your evaluation forms and feedback forms that you created this fall. Can I pop it up there? Would that be helpful? Or do you want to share? Or
I really just want to give you all some background. As I was getting ready to plan our PPS Middle School Band Festival, I was looking at the OBDA rubric and having a little bit of distance from being a middle school teacher myself and going back into this whole, and the COVID thing, going back into an evaluative festival thing. I'm like, how are we going to make kids feel great if they can't play great right now? I don't want bands going to a middle school band festival and getting 40s. Especially if they don't have the nuance or the training that apparently we need to be able to interpret a score appropriately. And I have myself taken my band to festivals and gotten the gamut of, like, I had one year my band got a 55 and an 85, and I didn't know what to tell my students about that. It just felt so completely arbitrary. And there's the middle school kind of section on the rubric, but with judges, it's not quite clear if they really understand what's going on. Like, we should not be evaluated as the same as a 6A band, but sometimes that gets lost in translation. Anyway, I loved making rubrics for when I evaluated my students on their individual playing tests. I'm like, why can't I do something similar for a big ensemble where a judge could look at the language that is really student friendly and just circle and kind of use it as a comment bank. And so that a student could really see what an outstanding is and why a 1 is amazing. Or do we get rid of the numbers entirely and just say this is outstanding? But that's again another discussion for another day. So after a couple of people gave me some really amazing feedback, and then we piloted at our band festival, and I let directors opt in. Like, do you want to use the OBDA one or do you want to use this new one? And here's the preview. Every single one except one opted in, and they loved it. And I here's the student evaluation guide that has matching language, and oh my gosh, now my kids have something to do that they understand and really know the nuance of what an evaluator is listening for. And it's based in equity. Standards-based grading is based in equity and not an arbitrary 100-point scale where a 76 is amazing to a band director, but oh, I got a C to a middle schooler. So anyway, that was the whole impetus for this project. And then I just kind of shared it with some people to get some feedback. And then Eben got a hold of it and kind of ran with it and wanted to make it an additional or an official OBDA thing. So this is me just kind of presenting it. And a big thing that I removed, I got really upset that there's still stuff about how kids dress on the OBDA rubric. So I changed that to something else that was much more student friendly, more equitable. It was about confidence and stage presence instead of, who cares if your shoes don't match? Are you expressing confidence in how you play? So anyway, that was the impetus from this. I don't really know what the next step is. I was looking for as much feedback as possible. And I would love to hear thoughts or concerns or other, I'm not quite sure what the next step is. Do we want to, I think what Eben was thinking, oh, we need to adopt this as an official OBDA thing. I'm like, I don't want to tell people what to use. If they want to stick with the OBDA one, that's great. But if they want to be thinking about something else, here's an option, I guess. I don't know. my guess the advice I need is what's the next step that you all would like to see?
Yeah, I saw that he had the proposal form, which I think, I don't know, I support that personally. I like that you're thinking of, if you don't want to use this, there are other options out there, but I think this is a really great, very comprehensive rubric, especially for the students, like you were saying. Does anyone that used this at their festival this year have any feedback that they want to share, whether they liked something about it, comments, feedback? Go ahead and speak up if you have something.
I didn't use the rubric because I didn't have kids at that festival this year, but having a rubric that is kid-centered, because honestly, I mean, there's two reasons I think to take your kids to festival, maybe three. One is for band directors to learn how to make their band sound better by having other people put ears on your band. Two is for kids, of course, to hear other bands. And three is for the kids to hear the information that we get from the adjudicators. And so if that information is clear and spoken gently, I think it makes the whole festival experience better for everybody, probably including directors, honestly.
So I have some thoughts. So part of this, for me, asks the question of who is the rubric for? Is the rubric for students or is the rubric for teachers? Early in my career doing festivals in Oregon, I never shared any of this with the students at all. I shared with the students the judges' comments because I thought that I didn't think the scores mattered to kids, period. Like I didn't think that that was anything important that the kids needed to have. I thought what was most important was that the kids needed to hear the critique, the positive and the constructive from judges. I used it as a teacher who came out of a terrible high school band and went to a mediocre college and started my teaching career not having any clue what I didn't know. And through going to festivals and through the language in the OBDA scoring guide, I improved as an educator because I thought that language really guided what I needed to do as a teacher. I feel like I love that I love that it's simplified. I love that it's gotten rid of the 1 through 100. Like I'm 100% with you on that. But depending on who this is for, right? And I think that's the question here, depending on who this is for. I think it's missing a lot of the specificity and language that especially young band directors could use to really understand. There's a lot of general, good, excellent language in here that doesn't actually help teach anybody what they should be doing. And maybe that's the judge's job, right? Maybe then the argument is that that's the judge's job. But I personally would love to see more of the specific language that's in the original one embedded more in this one. Yeah, that's my 2 cents worth for now.
Thank you. And that's helpful because you guys use that in your district, I believe. So thank you for that feedback. Amanda, do you have anything you want to contribute?
So I'm not familiar with the festivals up here as much because I've been bouncing in and out of the state. For those who don't know me, I'm from Florida and spent some time in Oregon trying to learn some things about the band world here before I had to go back home to get the proper license to transfer. That said, what we do in Florida is very similar to this. And actually what ends up happening is we usually share this with our students the next day. We usually listen to our judges' comments. Each judge in Florida always has both the paper that they fill out with the generic comments that they want at the end, but they also have, nowadays it's their iPhones, but it used to be just the standard recorder. That way you could actually have comments going at the same time with the music in the background. They would speak their comments at the same time. We would listen to the recordings from each judge. That way we could hear more specific detailed comments about each piece, about each section, just in passing things like, oh, we need to fix the saxophone intonation there, stuff like that. Generally speaking, anything that was guided towards the director specifically were added to the back of the page and were shared specifically with the director at a different time. If there were questions about that, those were things the director was supposed to pursue separately. So I would have never even thought about that. Like when I first got here and I saw the original one that you were referencing, Anne, I was kind of a little bit like, wow, that's a lot of text. That's a little much for my eyes almost. But that's a great point. So I wonder if maybe there's a way to include that somewhere else on the sheet, or maybe on a separate sheet, stuff like that, so that we could have a little bit of a both there, because I think that this was really a great way to involve the students as well. I don't know about your experience and other teachers' experience here, but in Florida, that grade is a huge deal. Much like with the thing that Laura said about, we think that a 76 is great, but the kids go, boo-hoo, I got a C. In Florida, a level 3 is a good. And if you tell a student that your band got a good, it's devastating for them, kind of thing, even if it's wonderful news for us. Finding a balance, maybe something we can talk about.
One thing I wish we had more of is the training for middle school directors. When you go and you do the adjudication training and they teach you how to use that form, just going through that training really helped me when I was a newer teacher here. This is year 20, and I still refer to that form. And I go over it actually with the kids in class before we go to festival, so they have some idea of the level of detail that the people are listening for. But if we could do an OBDA adjudication training sort of for middle school directors, I think, because you're right that the detailed OBDA sheet really, really, really helps with specifics as far as how to differentiate between not good, kind of good, pretty good, really good, and amazing. And it's very specific in giving you those gradations. I think all directors benefit from being reminded of the different levels. There's more than just okay and amazing. There's more than crappy and wonderful. There's all the spots in the middle. So what do you think about doing an OBDA training just for middle school directors on how to listen to bands, just like they do for the high school one, where you listen to recordings and you make comments and then you share them?
Hey, Laura, I love the idea of this. I love what you're doing, and I would love to. I'd be happy to contribute or help out or whatever you want, or pick my brain, whatever if you want. The one thing I always get, you always lose me though whenever people talk about how kids see a 76 and they get upset because you get a C. I've never experienced anything like that at all, because from the first day we tell them that no, it's out of 100, but it's not like a grade. It's, say, if you had to do that, it'd be 50 is the average, so 50 would be a C if you had to do it like that, which you can't. I just make it very clear that it isn't the same system. And they go, oh, well, what is the system? And then I tell them, they go, oh, okay. And so I say, we got a 75, like how a 75 is, what it is. And they go, oh, okay. I've never once had any issue with that, of saying, hey, we got a 75. And they're like, oh, man. So that's why I always get lost whenever people bring up that argument in the case against the numbers, because it's just so opposite from anything I've experienced. Maybe that's me. I don't know.
Another bigger philosophical thing was that when you have a numerical score, you're, it's really easy for a director to compare their score against another score, even in a blind recap. And this is just a me philosophy that, me personally, I don't think that has a place in middle school. And I think that we as directors get a huge jolt of us. Oh my gosh, my band did so great and it beat all these people. That's not, I'm not denying that that's a really addictive feeling. We all want our bands to do really, really well. But if we're truly trying to be student centered, like, and if we want to be a collaborative music making community and the kids are like, yeah, we beat that band. And the director's like, yeah, we beat that band. And those kids are like, oh, well, we didn't beat anybody and we got a low score. And I don't know how to feel about that. Like, I want everybody to come out of a festival without a competitive edge. And this is, again, just me and my middle school philosophy. And I hear often from high school people, like, well, they need to be prepared for the high school competitive scene. I'm like, I don't care. This is middle school. I want them to be in your room when they get to high school, because I want them to have an amazing, collaborative, happy, learning-filled experience instead of feeling like they're better than everybody. Again, I'm a little soapboxy, and that is my opinion. And I do know that there's not in those numbers, but I also like the standard-based.
I love everything that's going on. I'm on my personal Zoom account because my school Zoom account is not a thing anymore. And I think you all see that 5-minute timer. Is it okay if I maybe restart the meeting, same link, because it's my personal, and we can continue the conversation? If you want to peace out and enjoy your sunny day, we'll record it. Same exact link. I'm just going to restart it. Is that cool?
Cool.
Okay. See you guys in a second. Thank you.
I got more for you, Laura.
Me first.
Okay. Do you want to hop in there, Amanda?
Sure. Oh, yeah, Amanda, go ahead.
So I'm not actually going to, apparently, Laura, you're going to have a piece taken out of you by Travis, but I'm going to defend you first. The competition thing is another thing that's new to me in the state. That's very marching band in the South and not a thing in like any of the concert settings at all. Even when you go to state, you get ratings, you get medals, you do not place. And that in general, I'm with you on. I don't think it has a place in middle school at all, for one. For two, it happens anyway, even in the fact that we don't have any kind of placement, stuff like that. Like, there's the competitive nature of what we do anyway, and the kids are going to compare themselves. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times we, have kids that will be heartbroken because they got a 2 instead of a 1 and their buddy's band got 1s and yada, yada, yada. Any possible way that we can eliminate that nature, it's not going to go away no matter what. But if we can discourage that and focus on the learning, focus on the ability to reflect on our performance and improve, the ability to go just get out and hear other groups and work with other directors and know that, we're not the only people that play our instruments, I think should be the goal.
And Laura, what I was going to add on is I also think it has to do with, I know the numbers and the things so well that I know when numbers are wrong. So I'm not going to get confused if I get a number that's really high or really low. I'm not going to go, well, how come we got scored so low? We did better. I'm just because of my personality and how I am, I'm going to go, what? No, that's wrong. And never not think about it again. Because I'm a trumpet player and we know, yeah, Doreen's laughing. Yeah, you guys know. Yeah. So maybe because of where I come from, maybe I don't see it as being as big of a deal as it is for everyone else or for other people. So I'm admitting my shortcoming, which is untrumpety of me. I understand. And that's the last time I will chime in with my nonsense. I don't want to interrupt.
I'd love to chime into this. I'm going to do it very carefully because I can get so boxy on this stuff as well. And, for saying characteristics of our instrument, I'm a guitar player. So like, I was always kind of like well, what do I play now in band kid growing up in Southern Oregon? But like, I don't know, like I didn't do any festivals this year. And for me personally, I didn't miss it because I was able to focus on just like seeing how much music I can throw in front of kids. And I think as I look into doing festivals next year, like my hope and I think the reason why I really like the rubric and it's simplified and you can share it with kids is like, it's just focusing on what's good music. And And it doesn't matter if it's, playing the right march or playing the right like band stuff. Maybe it's just because I'm not as much into the band thing. I'm just more into like music in general. That I think all this focus on like, are we successful at festivals? Like all the scores we get festivals. I don't know. Like, I feel like I don't miss it much. And I don't know if I'm alone in that. I don't know what I'm trying to say other than like, I hear a lot of things being said. They're like, we got to do this. We got to make sure these festival things work. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say with that, if that makes any sense. And please tell me if you're like, Sauce, you're just rambling. It doesn't make any sense. But I feel like there's too much of a like, how do we make it competitive without it being competitive? I don't know. It just seems like it gets so far removed from what music actually is about and what makes me excited about it that I don't know. Like the whole, I'm rambling and I apologize. So I'll stop.
I'll chime in. I appreciate all of those, what you just said. And I think it's important for us to reflect every once in a while at these experiences that we've created and these events that we feel, have to include all this criteria because this is how it's always been. And then before you know it, it's not even an event that directors want to go to either. So I think we have to be careful about, or just be willing to look at our processes and what we do and make sure that it's the right thing. And whether we go with scores or ratings, they are important from the administrative side. I mean, I call it our large group assessment. So when I'm asking for administration to pay for buses and a sub, and for them to understand what we're doing in our class is just as important as the test that the math classes or math teachers are giving in the spring. So festivals need to happen. How we do them, how we provide feedback, those are all worthy of these discussions.
I'm gonna pop in here. Brandon, I am like, we're on the same brain level, or brainwave, whatever. So I grew up in California and I went through the California school system, which does ratings instead of scores. As Amanda mentioned, the scores were pretty much primarily just used for marching band, with ratings being used at the middle school and high school levels for any type of concert situations. So I grew up thinking that that was the only way. And then coming into Oregon and teaching in Oregon and finding out that my kids were being rated out of 100 was, it was a lot. It was a lot to realize and see. Laura, I absolutely adore your rubric. The fact that there is no number attached to it even just takes away the temptation of ranking. Because without having a number attached to it, a judge can't look and be like, oh no, but this band sounded better than that one, so I'm going to add another number to this to be able to have that, first, second, third. Even though the intention may not be to have a first, second, third, we are humans and you see numbers and you kind of want to do it naturally. You want to organize it in some way that's going to make sense. As far as the purpose of festivals, I've always seen the purpose of festivals to be for my students. It's my students' opportunity to show off all of the hard work that they have done and realize that it's not about the final product, but it's about the process that they went through to do all of these things and to now get to show other people what they've done. A festival is not for me. Is it helpful? Yeah, absolutely. It is helpful sometimes. The judges' comments are super helpful when I see, oh, hey, every single judge is talking about my intonation. Maybe I'm not teaching that the right way. But at the end of the day, it's not for me to be better at my job. There are other things that I can do for that. There are conferences, there is outside learning and PD that I can do. And at the end of the day, my festival is going to be a fun experience for my students where they get to be like, hey, we did all this and now we're bonding and we're great and we're going to keep doing this in high school. So yeah, love the rubric. want to keep using it. It makes my little California heart happy to not have to be ranked on super specific things. I can look up the super specific things on my own as a teacher.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not like poo-pooing festivals at all. Hopefully it didn't come across that way. And a lot of what some people have said is like, and the reasons why festivals are important, and you hear what they're saying, it's like you want your kids to hear other people their own age playing. And I, as a guy that played rock guitar for a long time, like I was going to shows and playing a 20-minute set with like 3 other bands. And like that is awesome because you like root on your friends in the other bands, or like you make friends with people in the other bands. Like that's cool. Like I think that's where it's at. And then like the evaluations, yeah, are great, but it's the competitive nature of it, or the like somebody else voiced earlier where it's like we got to prep them so they can do well in the high school festival. And it's just like we're talking to like a very small percentage of bands in the state. And if we're being honest here, we look around who's represented in this group right now, we're feeding into programs that are the ones firing for that. A lot of us, I believe, as I was looking through the names. And so like, but that doesn't concern probably 80% of the band directors that are at our state, you know, that are out in Podunk, Oregon, being like, okay, there's a state contest, cool, who cares, you know? So.
That's a really good point. That's something that I kind of struggle with my program is I feed into a fairly competitive high school program. And I know that my colleague likes the kids to be kind of exposed to what they should be expecting in high school. So it really is kind of a catch-22 because I agree with everything, you know, that everyone's been saying. And I think a lot of it for me is about the experience, but my colleague sometimes is like, I also want them to have an idea of what they're getting into. And it's catch-22 a lot of the times. I agree with that, Brandon, for sure.
Sorry, one more interjection that I just thought of. The other big thing is if we keep getting adjudicators who are used to adjudicating high school bands, our students are not going to get the learning from this experience. We need people who are in the trenches and who are middle school directors and who understand that we are developing the next high school band. Sure, I know that everything is not going to sound, you know, absolutely perfect. And we need, I don't know, we just need adjudicators and clinicians that are going to be able to use their time wisely and help us get to that next level of development, because that is literally what middle school band and middle school in general is.
Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense. Does anyone want to throw in anything else maybe about feedback for the evaluation form? Maybe we can.
I have to. I feel like I'm the dissenting. I feel like I'm the dissenting vote here at this point because I do think we as band directors should want our kids to play better today than they did yesterday. And I hope that the band that I have my last year of teaching is the best sounding band I've had in my entire career. And I think that festivals are the PD that get us there. I strongly believe I wouldn't be half the band director I am right now if I never attended a festival. Not everybody, you know, has the opportunity to bring people in or have the courage to bring people in to listen to their bands. And I think that the festivals are for us. I think they're for our kids. And I think that you as the band director have the responsibility for how you, and now I'm on my soapbox, so sorry, but I feel like you as the band director have the responsibility to frame the festival. You get to decide what you share with your kids. You get to decide how important the score, and I'm not advocating for 0 to 100, just know that right off the bat. I'm not advocating for that at all, but I am advocating for better language in the rubric that actually tells kids, you know, you're not shaping a phrase, not just you did good on phrasing, because not every band director even knows what it means to shape a phrase. Because I'll admit, I was that band director. I had no clue how to touch intonation my first 3 years teaching. I had no idea what I needed to do to make my kids play more musical. I could get right notes at the right time if I was lucky, but that was about it. And I wanted to be better, and I didn't even know I sucked in the beginning, right? So like, thank God I, had went to festivals and had people beat me up a little bit. I don't think that's a bad thing, and I don't think it's a bad thing for our kids if it's done right. And that's up to the festival organizers to hire the right judges. If you don't think the judges, if you don't hire a high school guy to do a middle school festival, if you don't think that high school guy is capable of talking to your middle schoolers appropriately. And if you don't want your kids to be devastated by the scores, don't tell them the scores, or do a better job of framing this whole thing for your kids. But I think this is the best professional development that I have. And so I do think it's for teachers. And I think there needs to be a happy medium at least.
Can I get 2 cents? Hi, I'm Emily. I'm a first-year teacher, if you don't know me. I took my kids to the District 2 Band Festival this year, and we used, I think, this new rubric, and it was fantastic. And I felt like I did get a lot of that professional development. Like, I learned so much. I'm not sure how the other rubric would have compared at all. And if I would have gotten more out of that, or if my students would have gotten more out of more specific language. But I think the most important thing for me and what my kids can get out of it is I'm in a district with Anne, and Anne is just such an awesome educator. And like, her kids are awesome. And if it were some kind of comparison, like, my kids deserved infinitely lower scores than Anne's kids. But I really liked the rubric, or the evaluation form, because I felt like it was geared toward my kids when my kids were the ones being evaluated. It wasn't like they deserve all 4s. It was, okay, we got some 2s, we got a couple 1s, and like, this is based on the history of this program. This is based on the history of like my school specifically and how we've done in the past, and not really comparing them. So I just think that's really important.
Hi, I'm going to jump in. My name's Kaylee. I work in Southern Oregon in one of the Medford schools. I'm wondering if there's a way that we could allow for either of the rubrics to be used across the state and have them be OBDA approved or whatever. That way the districts that do really enjoy using the previous rubric can do that if they would like, and the districts that would like to use the newly proposed rubric. I personally love the new rubric in the way that it gets rid of, and don't get me wrong, because I'm as competitive I'm really competitive, but I think that the way that this new rubric is laid out, it focuses more on introspection as opposed to comparing the numbers with other people. Like, even when we do get blank scores back, I'm like, oh, okay, I landed in the middle. And then I'm thinking about the fact that I landed in the middle as opposed to what it is that I could do. I also, with the numbers, and maybe this is just me being green, but when I had my judging scores down, I was like, okay, well, what really is the difference between a 22 and a 24? Or what really is the difference between X and Y? So I think that with this current rubric, I would love to see more specific, like what Anne was saying, a little more specific vocab. I'm sorry, there's a tractor in the background, so you might hear that in the back. I'm sorry, it's harvest season at the dairy. But I think what it is that we're missing is specificity from adjudicators, and that opens up an opportunity for the adjudicators to be more direct and specific and actually have focus more on the clinic time as well with our kids. Yeah, that was the biggest, and I want to get beat up at a festival. I want somebody to say, no, listen, I've been working for 30 years and I know what I'm talking about, and this is what you need to do to get your kids better. Absolutely 100%. I'm with that. But I think what we should be focusing on with that is how our districts are choosing to set up the festivals, as opposed to the rubric, I guess. Because when it comes down to it, it's we get to decide how we run our own festival. So I don't know. That's where I would put the pressure, is on the individual districts, but that's just me.
Haley, I was going to go with something like that too. I mean, it sounds like we've got a pretty good consensus on the rubric and about how we could add some more details, and that would be helpful to everybody. But as far as maybe the comments for the director side of things, maybe that's not something that's rubric specific. Maybe that's something that we need to talk about more on the, like in the discussion in the chat, there's been a lot of talk about the training for the adjudicators, which people we're hiring to be adjudicators, what they've done in their history, stuff like that. I asked a question in the last meeting that we had to end early. I don't know if it ever got answered, about the timing. Like in all of the festivals I've ever been in Florida, we have 20-minute sets, and then there's a full 10 minutes where the adjudicator has time to write their notes. They usually don't write as much as they talk, but that's usually, like I said, when they will discuss the things for the band directors themselves. A good example of that is that's when they would give the suggestions for if they have specific ideas for, well, I noticed that this is a thing that was trending in all of your pieces. Maybe you could work on this, and this with your kids in order to improve that thing. I don't know if that's a thing that happens here. Maybe that's a thing we could include. Oh my gosh, Rob, your puppy's adorable. Sorry, friends, I have ADHD. You know, stuff like that though. Like we could find ways to incorporate those PD related things for us as well, while keeping the rubric student centered, because I think they really should be involved in the reflection process. And I feel like if, as an adult with ADHD, if I see that rubric and I see all of those words and I'm just like, oh my God, I don't want to look at that right now. What the crap? Like, I don't think my kids are going to hear that and actually want to discuss it and try to improve on themselves. Now, of course, I'm going off of no actual knowledge, having no actual experience with one of these festivals in this state. But I also have plenty of experience with festivals in the other state where we've done it in this exact way. And I've seen it be very successful.
Can I jump in about your comment with the adjudicators and being helpful? One of the things when you do the high school band adjudication training here, at least in Oregon, is that they want your comments to always include not just what the band is lacking in, but a specific exercise or a specific approach to help that band director get better. It's not enough to say the flutes were out of tune. You know, we already knew that. I'm sure the flute players knew that, but how can you help them to get better? And the more that adjudicators can include that, I think especially for young directors, it's invaluable to make sure that our adjudicators aren't just there to critique, but they're there to help.
Yeah, this is some really good feedback. Laura, do you maybe want to wrap it up and then we can kind of talk about our next step with the rubric?
Yeah, that was going to be my wrap up. Like,
beautiful.
I really like the idea of it being, especially as it's very new, and I don't want it to be set in stone if there's like really specific, like, I don't like how it says that thing in technique. Like, that's the kind of feedback that I'm looking for. Like, if you're wanting something more specific, then I want suggestions. The other thing that I was really thinking about is when people are looking for those specifics, I'm wondering about the balance between this form. And again, something Amanda said about being maybe the form being the student driven thing, and then the comments, the taped comments being the like really hyper specific things. Cause I like when I listen to tapes, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do that. Oh yeah, that thing. And they've been so like growth mindset when they're talking. It's just like, oh, your flutes are out of tune. It's like, wow, the flutes are struggling with intonation. Try this the next time. Like, it's a mini clinic when you're being taped. So I'm like, how can we capitalize on those two things and find a balance? Or do we focus on this as the student facing piece and also direct? I don't know. There's a lot of very deep philosophical conversations So putting this forward as it is, as like a, hey, here's an option for this year. And then, following OBDA protocol, making a committee of people who are interested in like hyper specifically changing language. And it doesn't have like, that could be over the summer, that could be whenever, it could be over the whole next year. I know we're all at capacity, but like, those are the kind of things that I'm thinking about the next step. Like, here, pilot this for this year, see how it worked. Because it should be a work in progress. It shouldn't be set in stone, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this was some really great feedback, and I loved hearing from the people that had a chance to use it, not just observed it. And thank you, Laura, for all the work that you put into it. I think there's a lot more that if you want to tweak it, we give you plenty today. So that's very helpful. And then maybe it's something we could revisit in the fall. Maybe like you said, I think a committee would probably be a great idea. I could talk to the board to maybe get that started, because I think a lot of people feel passionate about this, and I think that's something I really want you all to share. But I also want to get this meeting wrapped up fairly soon, if that's okay. If you want to pop in anything in the comments, please do so, but I'm just going to wrap up the last few things on the agenda, if that's cool with everyone. Thank you guys seriously for all this feedback. It's incredible.
I have one question for you, just about what can OBDA do for us as middle school directors?
Absolutely.
And I'm wondering if you would consider bringing to the board, helping us to generate a list of adjudicators who are middle school friendly.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful.
Okay.
I think that was reflective in the comments, and I'll definitely make sure to communicate that. Thank you, Cynthia. Yep. Okay. Eben added this. Any additional proposals to discuss? I think we've got plenty on the board right now with the evaluation form, but if you want to pop anything in the comment regarding anything else we want to address right now. We talked a lot about festivals. Some people are very pro, some people are very not, and that is okay as well. Oh, thank you, Nathan. I see your feedback about the solo rubric as well. I could pop that up really quick if you guys want to take a look at that as well. Festivals, we have a lot of district festivals, and I'm thinking like statewide festivals. I can only think of the OSU Middle School Festival and the what was it, Warner Pacific, is that the right college? Middle School Band Festival, but I know there's a lot of district festivals. Are we interested in possibly talking about doing more non-district specific middle school band festivals? Do we feel like we have enough representation with just the district middle school festivals? I think Warner was canceled this year because of lack of participation, but I think we were all struggling with traveling this year, so I understand that was an issue. Newburgh has one that's open to the state. Thank you, Heidi, for throwing that in there. Do we just maybe a quick comment in the chat? Do we feel like we have enough middle school festivals that our students can go to? Do we feel like we should try to host more? Your kids didn't want to do festivals. Yeah, I know. We need more. Okay, I think so, maybe. I know in the past, I talked with Andy Nelson about maybe popping into his festival, and he said something along the lines of, as they get priority within their district, and then if there's more room for other bands, they accept other bands. I'm not sure if that's the case for other districts. JJ Myers planning the stages of hosting one at South Salem. That's beautiful. Love that, man. Newburgh, wonderful. So on the topic of festivals, updating the OBDA calendar anytime you have festivals that are open to all would be awesome. And maybe indicating it in the comments. Yeah, are there any middle school festivals in Central Oregon? I appreciate that comment, because I feel like it's probably pretty limited to the major Bend, Redmond area. Is there anyone in the group that can speak on that? Because I am not aware. Down on the Southern Oregon coast, we just have our district festival. So yeah, okay. If anyone wants to comment on the chat, if you have any idea, that'd be awesome. So that's something we will definitely, I'll bring to the board about making sure we're really communicative about which festivals are open to all and not just exclusive to districts. Because I know I'm always looking for opportunities for my kids to travel and, like we talked about, get more feedback and go to new festivals and see new bands, not just the same ones in our local area. So I'll bring that to the board. We just wanted to talk briefly about membership, making sure that if people are willing and wanting to be part of the OBDA, everyone's welcome. Middle school band directors, we definitely want lots of presence there, so that way we can get a lot of feedback and lots of representation. And then our middle school commission piece this year was sent out earlier this year, will be Brian Ball Mages again. I think that was sent out early February, and I believe Danny Hunt is the one that is heading that up. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to Danny or myself, and we can give you more information if you want to contribute to that. Okay, final thoughts, if anyone wants to pop in there in the chat. I'm just going to say that our next full membership meeting is May 29th. I believe that's a Sunday. The time will probably be either 2 p.m. or 4 p.m., I'm guessing, based on past meetings. So keep an eye out for that. I'll send emails as well. And it looks like we have 10 minutes left in this meeting as well. So if you want to stick around, if you have any comments, final thoughts, please do. Yes, Memorial Day weekend, Cynthia. I did not set the meeting time. That was, I'll be at a bachelor party, so I won't be able to attend, but they're always recorded. You're always welcome to send any feedback to me or to the board directly or to your regional representatives if you have comments that you want represented in the meeting. All right, stick around if you have anything. Otherwise, have a great afternoon, you guys. Thank you so much for this awesome conversation. I appreciate you taking the time on this Sunday to be here. And I hope you all have a great week. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Nathan, on an awesome solo ensemble this weekend. Crushed it.
Laura, I like that idea.
Logistical question.
Yeah.
Okay. How do I say this kindly? Was the decision of the rest of the OBDA leadership not to come to this meeting because they were unavailable, or were they trying to keep it kind of like a middle school space?
Middle school space.
Okay.
Yeah. They
Because it
want
would be interesting to just invite them to these meetings to see that unique perspective of this.
I think these were all recorded, and I think we're all encouraged. I know I kind of skimmed through the high school meeting. We're all encouraged to kind of like take a look at them, but they wanted to give us a space to talk middle school only and not have any sort of like high school or whatever.
I can see both arguments, so
I'll make sure to get this posted for everyone to take a look at that.
Hey, Sarah, I think that I thought Mandy Burton was in charge of the commission.
I thought so too, but then on the website it says Danny Hunt, so I was confused. Did that get changed?
I don't know, that she was our commission person, and that she hooked me up with Brian, and I've already sent him the contracts and everything, so I don't think you can still contribute to it either.
Oh, okay. Thank you for
I
that
think it's
feedback.
been paid for.
I'm probably going to send an email recapping this, so I'll make sure to add that in there.
Double check with Ben, but I'm pretty sure it's all done.
I think my intention behind that comment was to say, please contribute your money if you committed to that.
No, I think it's paid for. Oh, you mean like follow up and actually pay for it?
Yeah, that's what I mean, like individuals. I think I addressed that poorly. I mean, I did address it poorly, but I'll put that in the email. Thanks, Jenna.
Who's the treasurer?
Chad, right?
Okay, so has he sent out reminders? Because I know I contributed, and I'm pretty sure our district already paid for it.
I was not able to go to our leadership meeting last Sunday because I was in California. So I was actually on a bus with a bunch of high schoolers. I tried to pop in, but I lost service. So I'll email him and just let him handle that if he needs to follow through. He's already done that or will.
All right, good idea.
Yeah, thanks for saying that.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Amanda, for all your feedback. Thank you, Anne, so much. Thank you, Jenna. You're lovely and beautiful. Thank you, Molly. I love your hair. It's a really pretty color.
Thank you, Sarah, for taking on this position and this role. It's awesome. So it's nice to have the voice in OBDA because it sure hasn't existed ever.
I think it's going to be good. I think we don't need these all the time, but I think maybe twice, maybe 3 times a year kind of meeting would be really helpful to keep us kind of the conversation open. So thanks for contributing. I appreciate it.
You bet.
I know my GBSD folks are gonna like roll their eyes when I say this, but if there's anything that I can do to help, and like put myself out, I do this every time. Like any committees or whatever needs to be supported or done, I am more than happy to help or be involved in any way.
I will email you personally.
Please do. Yeah.
Thanks, Molly.
Bye.
Bye, you guys. All right.